Dr. Paul, can you go ahead to start more question to Professor Mohammed? Yeah.
Yes. Who or what were your key mentors or influences in your early career after you completed your doctorate in Ulster?
Okay, I think I can answer your question that you asked before.
Okay, good.
This connection. When I was growing up, there were only two choices for people of my age in this country or in this city. They can go either to medicine or they can go to engineering. There was really not any a third choice that people will choose as a choice. So, and I was very much terrified by all these sketches that have to be made in botany and in zoology. So I decided I want to go to engineering. So this was my perhaps the easiest thing for me to answer, because it was really a matter of choosing between two devils. So I selected the one which was perhaps an easy easy choice for me. So that's how I started studying engineering. And then during my 4-year undergraduate degree in civil engineering, somehow I got an interest in structural engineering, because all especially the instructors, the professors that were teaching, I mean, those people who were teaching the subjects related to the structural engineering, I was really very much fascinated by their knowledge, by their sort of control on this subject. So I became interested in structural engineering, in studying in structural engineering during that 4 years, my period of my study in civil engineering. So as a result of it, I started my master's immediately after finishing the bachelor's in structural engineering. Then I had a break because I was working in construction industry, as I mentioned before. So I obviously was not doing any studies after finishing the master's. But then when I joined the academics, I obviously realized, and this was not really a secret, everybody knew that if I have to sort of excel in academics, then a PhD was a mandatory thing, and it is still mandatory. So then, luckily, I mean, I got a scholarship from University of Ulster studying fire structural engineering, although I never thought that I will be studying fire engineering. Then somehow I was very lucky, because this was the time when things were quite difficult in Pakistan. People were not really getting any scholarship, going abroad and studying in other parts of the world. I was very, very fortunate. I was very lucky that I got a scholarship, and then I obviously finished my PhD in Northern Ireland. Now, coming back to your next question about the mentor, I think I have learned a lot in working in construction industry, because I was dealing with large number of people there. And in that respect, I will perhaps name one person that taught me a lot. I really consider him as my mentor, because he taught me several, or he guided me on several aspects of not only the life, but also the technical proficiency, technical professionalism, professional ethics. I am still in contact with him. He was one of my previous bosses. His name is Nazir Chagla. He lives in Karachi. I admire him. As a matter of fact, he was the only mentor that I think that did any mentoring work for me. Rest everybody that I met, especially in academics, they were a mentor to me from a different aspect. I learned from them how not to do things. Whereas I learned from this particular person, which I admire a lot, how to do things, how to deal with people, what are the professional ethics, what is professional attitude, and how professionals do things.
Very good. My late maternal grandfather was a civil engineer by training, but his work was actually shale oil, the shale oil field early in the 1980s. So he was one of the early engineers in that field for a very large American engineering firm, KBR, Brown and Root, or now it's KBR. And another question I want to ask is about fire in confined areas, because that's an area of fire structural engineering that's very difficult, very important in Taiwan and Pakistan, where you have communities that may be packed on top of each other. Or here we have a lot of illegal structures on the tops of buildings, and we also have a lot of homes where we use these folding steel gates at night, so that you really can't get access quickly if there is a fire. And another thing is, so then this recent development of drones for robotic firefighting, which China and other places, they're actually producing commercial drones that can do firefighting, where the tubing is connected down to the large firefighting equipment at ground level, but it's delivered by a very mobile drone system.
Well, yes, the observation that you made is very much right. We also have this issue of large fires in confined spaces. Very often there are news in all the media that fire starts in one building, and then obviously it causes a lot of damage to property and life loss. Unfortunately, things are not that advanced in Pakistan, as you just mentioned about robotics and drones. We still have to rely on the conventional methods, although things are changing a little in the country and more recent advancements are coming in firefighting. But we are still way too far backward from the other parts of the world in that area.
Were your undergraduate degrees in Urdu, or they're conducted in English? And how did you find the transition to the British academic and professional environment at the University of Ulster?
For the large number of academic institutions in Pakistan, they use English as a medium language, although there can be mixed instructions. People will tend to go back to their obviously mother tongue while doing the teaching, but all the examinations, the books, the curriculum, the syllabus, they all are in English. So it was not really much difficult for me to continue my studies in Northern Ireland, except that I took a little time in understanding their accent, which was very a little different and at times heavy as compared to other accents in different other regions of the world. But as far as the studying is concerned, this was not really of any particular level of difficulty, because we were studying books in English, and mostly English is kind of second language to most of the people who are in educational institutes in Pakistan.
How about the English in Ulster?
This is what I said. It was a sort of different experience for me to understand an accent which was completely different than the accent people otherwise will have speaking English language.
What did you find most valuable about your experience as a student in the UK?
Well, I think I met wonderful people. Apart from several other issues in Northern Ireland, they were very friendly people. and I like the countryside. I like their country landscape. They were sort of friendly people. But then I was meeting with people coming from other parts of the world also. So it was really sort of broadening your perspective, you're broadening your vision, meeting these people and understanding how other people think about different issues that are a sort of topic of of the present time.
When I was in China, at the Foreign Language Institute that I was studying at, most of my classmates, the Chinese classmates, were training for the Foreign Service or to work in that government areas abroad. And I also lectured in American constitutional law. And one student, I remember he later was in the Foreign Affairs Police Department, but he came up to me during the class, had a very good question. He said, well, but what about, because we were discussing human rights, and at that time was 1989, where they had the demonstrations in Beijing, in Tiananmen Square, and we had demonstrations in the city where I was, about 20 or 30,000 students, where I joined them in the demonstrations as well. And so back at the campus in the lecture, this student very precociously asked me, but you talk about human rights in China, what about in the United States? How about your mistreatment of Black people and your mistreatment of American Indians? And so he kind of caught me by surprise that he asked I said, that's a very good question. So how did you find your teaching experience, and or what did you lecture in Ulster?
Well, they gave me a couple of courses to teach to undergraduate students. So I was teaching to civil engineering students, and I was teaching to building engineering students. So this was sort of a TA-ship for me. I taught full courses to these students for 2 years.
What were some of the difficulties that you faced in the UK, and how did you overcome them? You kind of hinted at there may have been some unique aspects of Northern Ireland because of its history.
I think I did not have any particular challenge from the, once again, in the context of the Northern Ireland. Once again, I met very good people who became very friendly. They were full of advices to me. The only worry that I had at that time was that my scholarship was only for 3 years, and I have my family with me. So the only worry for me was to finish my work in the prescribed time of 3 years, so that I don't have to worry about about living expenses and supporting my family. Otherwise, it was a fantastic experience. Once again, as I said, people were very friendly. I am still in contact with some of them. I write them mails and we exchange sort of news together. I have a very good friend which I met there. He was a secretary to a professor, Mr. Robert Morley. He lives in London. I very often get in touch with him. We share with each other news that are sort of a little amusing to us. So he sends me things that he tries to sort of, what you can say is either amusing or sort of a little I can say is a little pinching, and I do the same to him about UK and other parts of the world.
So that's interesting. You mentioned the personal dimension of networking among academics and the importance of maintaining those lifelong ties and bonds to foster the ability to, from one generation to another, to develop our scholarship broadly. And I'm curious how in your guiding your postdoctoral students or your doctoral candidates, how do you help them to benefit from your network and to make their own networks when they attend international conferences, for example, and encourage them to not be shy, but to go proactively to engage the other international attendees at conferences around the world and use that as a tool in their academic formation?
Well, we do not really get much chances of traveling and meeting people in person in these conferences because there are obviously financial restrictions that limit our traveling and attending these conferences. But in present days, physical presence is really not as important as it was in the past. So usually I do not, or I try to get my students also connected with people that I'm working with in one way or the other. Sometimes we do joint publication by making these other colleagues co-authors in the papers. So obviously, I mean, this is the type of facilitation that is presently possible for me, for these students, so that they can get in touch with the other with the experts in other parts of the world, and if they could find any opportunity to work with them in future, they can explore that opportunity.
Okay, I have several questions about I want to know in your country how you can manage those earth in case earthquake happening. Maybe there is a distance management. Maybe example, you are in the one city, the earthquake may be in another city. So how you can manage the distance management? That is my first question. A second question is like example, we have a wildfire communication through those fire officer very effective too. Early we can stop those fire, go to the another area. So how do you have any skill or method to those earthquake stop? Because this is a disaster God's made. How you can management that. That is second question. Third question, this is all God's work. Like example, today we have a raining day. We have limited access kind of internet. So we already had a effective those disaster. As well, you already said that earthquake had a many disaster, destroy infrastructure, wood, breach, all kind really had a effective our human life. So I want to know how we can manage those earthquake. You are the especially department chairman of earthquake management, as well you are engineering, earthquake engineering, you have PhD. So I wanna as Candy, US Senate, I wanna hear your advice to those three questions. Yeah.
Well, we have a National Disaster Management Authority in the country whose job is to obviously carry out the management parts of these different type of hazards and disasters. As an academic, I obviously have limited role in carrying out any on-ground management work. So obviously we work as advisors to the management authorities whenever they need our help in either sort of sharing the knowledge or suggesting them any appropriate measure for these hazards and disasters. But it is their job. They do it on ground. So we have got at the federal level, we have got National Disaster Management Authority, and then each province has got their provincial disaster management authority, which further trickles down to district level of disaster management authorities. So it is their job. They do this work whenever there is a disaster or a hazard hits any part of the country. So they carry out all these management and all these communication activities between different authorities and between different organizations that are involved in the relief work. They also take care of the preparatory work before the disaster. So they organize different courses, different lectures for training the public servants, the people who are working in different related departments that can be needed, that can be required in the aftermath of a disaster. Similarly, wildfires, especially like for example, Karachi or the province Sindh, we do not have wildfire. Wildfire issue is more in the northern part of the country, up in the hills. So this is where the wildfire incidents take place, and then there is another agency which we call 1122, Rescue 1122. They carry out the relief and other fire control work in these parts where wildfire incidents take place.
In Taiwan, in Pakistan, the United States, one of the areas of disaster preparedness is called continuity of operations. So we look at how the government can stay in place when massive God-made disasters do occur. And we deploy annual exercises using our hospitals and our emergency services, the ambulances, and run annual exercises all throughout the island here as well in the US, as well as I'm sure the NDMA also in Rescue 1122 pursues those kind of preparedness training to mitigate the disasters. But I'm curious because Sarah brought out God-made disasters, but you have an interesting paper on a new emerging kind of man-made disaster from human misdeeds and terrorism. And that's something that both the US and Pakistan are very concerned about preventing. We don't have such a problem here in Taiwan with that, thankfully, but we're still exposed to the possibility of it. And I'm curious to find out about your work in that field and what led you to think about, you know, besides God-made disaster risks, there's also these man-made risks that we have to address and that are not easily addressable.
Well,
In America, we just God work, but I don't want to say God made a disaster, but it's God's work. Because God's work means we cannot control. That's all we express. That God's work means that we cannot control. Okay, yeah. So I want to clear that.
Okay. Well, if we look at this particular issue or this phrase very closely, then obviously there is no God-made disaster. All disasters are made by humans. So be it because of the result of a climate change or anything which is happening in the nature or something which is done by the humans, in the end, it is humans who are at the back of a disaster. So a disaster created because of an earthquake is not because of an earthquake. Disaster is created because of the buildings that people have built and because of the infrastructure which was weak. And obviously it has made it look like a disaster. Otherwise, if an earthquake happens in a jungle, who cares? There is nothing which is to be turned into a disaster in a jungle or in a desert. So that is why a disaster happens only because of the humans. So there can be different reasons for that, but in the common thing in all these disasters is the presence of the humans. Humans cause disasters.
I think
Now,
that caused by human because like pollution or any mismanagement kind of nature's rule. But however, those basic original made by God, all materials, all things originally. But how we are using that, how we are keep the nature, I think they will be effective us to advantage our life to be better or disadvantage to broken our life. I think I understand what your point. Yes, yes.
Thank you. Well, to answer the question that Paul was asking about the preparation in the hospitals, I don't think this has ever been done in Pakistan, although one of my colleagues tried doing or taking up this challenge some time ago. But we did not find much interest among people or the management of the hospitals in this part. So there may be a little work done in this area, but there is a huge gap. I don't think any of the hospitals are prepared for taking up any such calamity. And I remember that some time ago, perhaps 3 or 4 years ago, there was a huge heat wave in Karachi and in different other parts of the province, and we faced the consequences. The hospitals were not prepared, and people have to suffer a lot because of this unpreparedness from the hospitals. So there are obviously multiple reasons, and I don't really want to go into all these reasons for them not to be willing to carry out this kind of preparation work. But the bottom line is that they are not ready.
No. In Taiwan, when people are riding scooters or motorcycles, they're required to wear a helmet, but there's no standards for the helmet, and so the manufacturers use the cheapest filler material, namely styrofoam. So you have this. It looks like a helmet, and it's fancy and it's big and it looks like it's secure, but inside it's just styrofoam. And
it's the same here. The same here. Yeah, I mean, I will be happy even if people in Taiwan are wearing any kind of helmet.
Exactly.
I'll be very happy because this is not really what happens here. People, I think in 90% cases, people do not wear any helmet at all.
Yeah.
In America, a day, many thousand people die because of the without helmet, especially biker. The bike riding without helmet. So we need more like education to publicly get a helmet. I have another question that so we are the human kind. So we have like earthquake in protect ourselves in the law. In California, example, we have a Melrose law, or we have earthquake zone insurance. And when earthquake disaster happening, we protect the insurer to benefit. So do your country have any kind of zone to maybe pay more tax? Because we have a Melrose tax, we pay a lot if we have a earthquake zone.
No,
Yeah,
no.
not yet. Oh,
We don't have any such kind of incentive or any such kind of measures in this country.
oh, I see. We are in California. We have to have insurance, earthquake insurance. We buy the house. We have to have it, as well as that's the Melrose zone. We have to pay higher tax. Okay, that's good. Good to know. Okay, yeah.
Sarah, can I just add, because you see, and this is not really me saying it. This is perhaps a little wider understanding among people. The only thing or the catalyst to reduce the disaster damage and aftermath is perhaps the financial position and situation of individuals and the country. So if you want to bring the disaster damage or if you want to lower the disaster damage, then you have to lower the poverty of the people. So poverty of the people is perhaps a biggest challenge in addressing a number of these issues, which otherwise could be very easily dealt with.
Well, you mentioned your father was a banker, and in the United States, the bankers are the people who require risk mitigation of their clients. So they actually say, if you want a mortgage for your property, you have to have fire insurance. You have to have a floodplain insurance. So the back of my property had a flood zone, but not all of the property, but some of it. So we had to have at least some coverage, insurance coverage for our national flood insurance program in the United States. So those are really required by bankers, so that's good. Maybe that's something that a bank like Grameen Bank in Pakistan, which is world famous for its microfinance programs that reach poor people in poor communities where they're at with the financial needs that they have. Maybe they could also develop micro insurance programs that are being discussed for climate change mitigation, for flooding, for earthquakes, for fires, so that people who do live subject to those kind of risks are able to mitigate them in their microfinance and micro insurance programs that they have access to, such as you have access to in Pakistan through Grameen Bank.
Well, for a larger level of implementation of these kind of programs, perhaps a legal framework is required. Because individually people do these kind of, or they get benefited from these kind of incentive. Some of the people buy car insurance, and that's do not. So it depends on, if it is left to the individual, then obviously there are variations. And since there is no legal framework available to sort of bound people to take insurance on different type of assets or different type of their properties, it is difficult for only a bank or for only an institution to convince people or masses to follow these kind of programs. So individually, and obviously people have different perspectives. Some of the people do take advantage of these insurance schemes and programs, others do not.
On a more positive angle, what are some of the highlights of your professional career in earthquake engineering that you can share with us?
Well, I think I was able to build a very good team to work. These are young people, and I'm sure they will be an asset to this institution and to this country. Firstly, then I was able to win at least 2 major grants in my career. Each of them was more than 400,000 US dollar. And from our standard, these are really good and major grants. I was able to publish my research in nearly all good quality journals in my area of field, structural engineering and earthquake engineering. And I have been able to produce a number of graduates with degrees in earthquake engineering. This is for the moment what I could remember. All is up to you.
Yeah, Sarah, you want?
Yeah, okay. Why don't you, how you can balancing your personal life, like you have family, everybody had a family, but you're, yes, so can you tell me any advice how you balancing your life, between your current life and your personal life? Yeah.
Sarah, could you repeat, please?
Oh yeah, how you can management your family relationship, busy, we are the all busy life, how you can balance yourself to management your healthy or relationship happiness, how you can management, yeah.
Right. I think that it's very simple. I have made my office my second home.
Okay, I think Dr. Paul, do you have the last question? We are almost done, yeah.
Okay, let me think. What are your aspirations looking forward into the future for your career and your impact in earthquake engineering and in Pakistan as a department chairman?
Okay. Well, well, my obviously dream and my wish is that I leave a team of enthusiast people behind who could continue this work of earthquake mitigation in Pakistan.
Very good. We hope so too.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Professor Mohammed. Your sharing is effective to California better life, especially earthquake, and we have so many wildfire here. Thank you for your advice. I want to continuously you're expert in your field, be successful. And thank you, advisor, Dr. Paul. Your contribution to make America great again. Okay, thank you for all of you.
And I wish you luck in the coming elections for you.
Thank you so much.